Yo, Shortbox Nation, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. My name is Badr, and this is the Shortbox Podcast, the comic book talk show that brings you the best conversations about comic books with the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making them. And every now and then, we also talk to the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into selling them, which brings us to today's episode. This is episode 435. And I'm recording this episode live from my favorite place in all of Jackson, right? It's the best comic shop in all of Jacksonville, probably all of Florida, if not the whole continental U.S. An award-winning comic shop at that. I'm talking about Gotham City Limit. They've won, and when I say award-winning, we're talking like they've won awards for best comic shop and best business here in Florida. So, my comic shop's pretty rad. And I'm joined by the man who makes all of this possible. He's the owner of Gotham City Limit. You've heard his voice plenty of times if you've listened to even last week's episode. You heard him on that episode because he was able to stump Kelly Thompson, all right? He asked her who would win in the Black Widow versus Scarlet question. And if you listen to the Jason Aaron episode, he was also the man that stumped Jason Aaron, who's an award-winning writer who gets paid to use his imagination. And he was having a hard time coming up with an answer to Ben's awesome question, which if you haven't heard, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out that Jason Aaron episode. And I've kind of ruined the surprise, but if you're watching video, you already know who I'm here with. For my audio listeners, I'm proud to welcome Ben Kingsbury back to the show. Let's give it up for Ben. Ben, welcome back, man.
Badr, thanks so much, man. Remind me that, you get a little Pacer amazing
Pacer
shop dog. Yeah,
and
if you don't introduce him, come on, man.
Pacer, the greatest, the bestest boy.
That's right. Finally made a comic book appearance on Final Boss. No, but thanks for having me. But remind me, I'm going to have to rewatch this so when we do our end of the year show, I just don't regurgitate all the same stuff I'm about to spit out right now, right?
I got you. I also want to say for our video listeners, I think this is an episode that behooves you to listen or watch the video version. I'm an audio first guy, so I know how it is. But this one is a special one because we're here live at, or pre-recorded live at Gotham City Limit. And you also not only get cameos from Pacer, but you're also getting cameos from Jonathan, working hard behind us, closing up shop or recording after hours.
This guy's working after hours right now.
Yeah,
man.
right?
Thank God for salary, Badr.
Yeah. Ben works him hard. But look, you can't be the best, comic shop and best specialty retail shop in Florida without working in some extra hours.
Yeah, it's customer service. So that's the name of the game. I think that one of the keys to this place is what everybody who works here kind of provides, and that is beyond. People don't come in and say, hey, do you have this? And we just point over to a box somewhere. We go find it ourselves, or I call Jonathan on his day off. I'm like, hey, Jonathan, where's Ultimate Invasion number 4 at here?
So so Jonathan's like a lawyer. He's working on like a retainer. You can call him anytime.
I tried to give him a day off last week, or on his day off, I told him, I was texting him literally in the middle of texting him, do not post anything on social media. Just take a day off. And as I was texting him, he was posting on social media.
Jonathan, ladies and
gentlemen. Beyond lucky to have Jonathan, dude. Yeah, beyond lucky. Amazing guy.
Ben, I could not accurately say it's been a while since we last talked because we literally talk pretty frequently. If we're not talking in person every week, we're usually texting. But I was curious, when's the last time I had you on the pod? And it was, we recorded an episode a few days before New Year's Eve, 2023.
Yep.
And we did our best of 2023 recap.
Yep.
I was looking at the video today and I'm like, that feels like another lifetime ago.
It was.
I was wearing a jean jacket, which means that it was definitely like end of year in Florida.
It is. You forget that it actually gets a little cold here in Jacksonville, right? And then you forget it gets so hot you don't want to be outside. So.
Yeah, we could have recorded this episode today in our swim trunks.
100%. Easy breezy, too. We're keeping it hot in here, too, man. Who wants to pay for AC?
So. But, man, speaking of which, this is a little bit... Okay, so today's episode is meant to be like a mid-year catch-up between us. We're supposed to talk about, the best comics of the year so far, what's got you excited as a comic shop owner, things that you've noticed, the trends, etc., and all of that. But before we get into that, I wanted to congratulate you because speaking about awards and all of that, you are nominated again this year for Best Specialty Retail Shop in Florida. Best of Florida. So
Yeah.
Best of Florida award. You're nominated again. Congratulations, dude.
Well, it's awesome, but all those nominations mean, or any awards that we win, we only win them because the people who come here go on there and vote, and because I hold Jonathan's job hostage if he doesn't vote every single day, and the Indian company I hired to vote for us illegally on the side. No, just so we win. No, it's awesome. The whole point of all those awards, to even be nominated, is great. Then you get super competitive, and you want to win again. But it really is just a testament to the people who come in here. That's actually my favorite part of the shop, hands down, is the people like having a comic store to be proud of, and they like talking, oh man, this is a great place to go. When people come into town, we get a lot of visitors. They see, hey, this is a place you want to stop in if you're on business or from somewhere else. So any of those awards, man, they are fantastic, and they are a testament to all the awesome people that take it to the limit on the regular, man, for sure.
You know what? Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you, because I was thinking, like, man, Ben has phoned in. I mean, he's part of the show. You're like our I mean, now it's like my second, third chair. But, you've been an integral part of the podcast for a while now. And I don't think I've ever asked you, or let me take a step back.
All right.
You've been an integral part of the show. And you always submit the most awesome questions for the guest interviews. You've recommended some amazing books when we do our Fistful of Comics segment. And you end every voicemail the same. Your signature, take it to the limit.
Yep.
And I guess I don't think you've ever explained that on the pod.
Well, no, and
there's people there's people outside of Jack's that get to enjoy your presence and hear from you, but I don't know if they even know what take it to the limit means.
So, take it to the limit came from, obviously, the name Gotham City Limit, but the reason that it is so iconic to what we do now is because it naturally came about. We didn't start the place Gotham City Limit. I am not that smart. Okay, so I wish I could take credit. Like, oh, this is gonna be great. We'll take it to the limit. We'll have it on stickers. It'll be on everything. All over back of cars and bookcases and kind of stuff. But it evolved naturally one time. Yelled at somebody out the door, take it to the limit, and just like an underground band, it is now just a staple of what we do around here. It always started, the other half of my iconic statement there is, with great power comes great responsibility, because
and always take it to the
limit. Obviously that's it. You got to add it too. And, we had to combine a little Gotham City Limit with some Spider-Man, because that obviously played a big part in, who I am as a person, reading that stuff back in the 80s and 90s. So, but now I can't even take credit. When I first opened this place, I was trying to come up with a tagline, and I was thinking of all kinds of stuff. And let me tell you something, never was it take it to the limit, but it worked out so perfect. And now it is everything that we do. It says everything I do, every Whatnot show I do, if someone buys a new product, we pull it off. We're like, you take it to the limit, and I get to yell at people, and it's kind of the fun of it. So
you do enjoy a good yelling. I will admit,
100%. I am loud.
I don't think I've ever walked into a shop or any store, period, or business, where the owner yells at you.
Right,
in a positive way, but you yell at a positive
in a fun
way.
way. No, but we
You do some good ribbing too. I will say, me and Drew have been on the receiving end of some good jokes and ribbing when we've walked in, and I think it adds to the charm, man.
Well, if you can't have fun in a comic shop, what are you doing? Right, so we certainly aren't a corporate entity. We are a local place, and in that we really embrace personalities. Everybody who works here, from Jonathan to Santana to Chloe and on, everybody brings the personality. That's the first thing I look for. I mean, you can find anybody that loves comics. Do you love people and love being around it and love joking and laughing? And I mean, I think Chloe got her job here just because she fake laughs at every joke I have. So that's something that I always tell people: get yourself a Chloe.
Yeah,
right. Make you feel very bad. Make you feel much better about yourself every single day.
That's a good bullet point to have on a resume. I will fake laugh at my boss's
100%. I told Chloe for her relationship to continue on, she needs to make sure her boyfriend knows he's not that funny. Like, Chloe, make sure he doesn't quit his day job, dude. You probably make that guy feel like the funniest dude in the world.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
Ben, from the outsider looking in, it looks like there's, a lot of great things going on in the shop. And I'm assuming that we've already kind of talked about some of the good things going on with the award nominations. You've got you're growing the team, but I was curious from your perspective, what would you grade this year in comics? Like when you think about, we're recording this on July 22nd, so 2 days before New Comic Book Day, a couple days before San Diego Comic Con. So we're mid-year-ish. This is like a mid-year-ish check-in with you and talking about like the industry as a whole. But when you think about all of the different things that have happened this year, from the publisher side, from the from the comic book side, from just like customers and things going on, what would you rate this year in comics from like an A through F type
Well,
of rating?
obviously that part of what we do here is we love to read. We don't just sell comics. I love collecting it for the art, but we love to read comics. And since January, this year specifically, this is the best comics have ever been to me in my life. And part of it is I think the comic book industry embraced adults reading their stuff. Comics have always been a gateway to younger people to find some cool reading, especially if you're not that into reading. If you're, 8 to 15 years old and you find a genre in comics, whether it's horror, Marvel, or DC, or independent, whatever it is, it's a great gateway to reading. But they're writing stories. So my 44-year-old self, I mean, every week it's 25 or 30 comics I'm reading, and they're all fantastic. So in terms of that, I think we've really solidified. We have the best writers. I don't know if we've ever had more talented people in the game. I mean, from everybody, from the people, David Pepios writing, the Punisher and the Space Ghost, to the people on Thundercats, to all the Transformers stuff, the Jeff Johns, DC. I mean, we'll get into it with the All In, but what they've been doing, House of Brainiac, and their absolute power. The phone's ringing. Somebody wants to take it to the limit. To getting Tom King to write their stories, Tom Taylor writing the Nightwing. I mean, Scott Snyder's coming back for All In. I mean, these are the best writers. And so from a purely reading standpoint, I don't know if it's ever been better. Honestly, it's so good. I mean, every week I can't wait. New Rook this week. Oh, is it Transformers? Is it new Marvel? Is it the new universe? Is it new DC? Because people sleep a little on DC. They're not quite as collectible as Marvel in terms of like value in the comics. But the stories, Chip Z on Batman, creating Failsafe, and Josh Williamson and Tom King. These are, I mean, the stories have never been better.
I guess on the topic of DC, like I said, we're a few days out from San Diego Comic Con. This one has I feel like a certain air to it, a certain energy to it. DC just, I'd say announced, but it was kind of like leaked and announced, like the whole, all in absolute line that they've got going on. Marvel's returning back to Hall H. Kevin Feige will be there. I think they're doing a Wolverine Deadpool panel. It just feels like there's a certain air to the San Diego Comic Con. So as a retailer, like, I guess I'm curious how much of San Diego Comic Con impacts like the shop and people coming in, or maybe seeing something there and like, wanting to come in here and get ahead of it, or check it out. Like, do you find that San Diego Comic Con in this instance, or just Comic Cons in general, will have like I guess, an impact on how, what happens here?
Well, iconic ones like San Diego Comic Con, 100%, because they're going to put out these panels with these videos and these previews and stories and ideas that they haven't released yet, and it will catch a little like wildfire. It's like anything, as a retailer, DC is right in the smack in the middle of a thing called Absolute Power, which is a huge event for them. And they're already, then all of a sudden last week, it was just like all in everywhere. And you're like, wait, I thought we were doing Absolute Power right now, So it's cool. But the all in that DC has coming out, I think the reason that they're pumping it around San Diego Comic Con is, Jonathan and I were talking about it. We have a feeling it's kind of a response to the Ultimate Universe Marvel did. Where you might get the classic characters in an alternate universe, similar to even what Transformers and G.I. Joe and Void Rivals have done. So I think in terms of that, it will bring a bunch of new people in. And hands down, although DC writes amazing stories, some of the best stuff they do is their Elseworld stuff.
Yeah.
And they're continuing to do that this year. And that definitely brings new readers in for sure.
I was so yeah, I spent all day today kind of catching up off my notes and specifically like trying to figure out what this all in is because the initial like tweets from Scott Snyder and some of the things that I seen that was being shared like on Twitter and online, like I didn't get the full picture. So I read a couple of articles about it, and it's still I think I have a grasp on it, but I guess in your opinion, does it feel like a lot? You
It's
know?
well, it doesn't really make a lot of sense yet. All
Okay, all
right,
right. So I'm not the
so
only
they no,
one.
no, no, because I mean, I follow a lot of the writers. Kelly Thompson
Mm,
announces she's doing the Wonder Woman,
yep.
but it looks very dark, and even she said it's like a Wonder Woman you've
Hmm.
never read before. Then plus some of the all in promo stuff said every issue is a jumping on point. So I
Yeah.
think we're all looking for clarity, but I think it was DC's way of teasing to lead into San Diego Comic
Yeah.
Con, and I'm hoping we get some more answers in San Diego Comic Con about it. But it's DC. It's hard with some of their characters, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. I think one of the hardest things that never gets talked about is how good these writers are continuing to write stories that have 60 years of history.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy to try to tie it all together.
That is
So
a colossal task, and I'm always impressed when a writer is capable of like finding, like a piece of like lore or continuity that hasn't been explored, like bringing an old character back or just finding like their own little pocket to make the most out of it. I wanted to really quick. You mentioned you're bringing up like the writers and creators that are doing all in, and I mean they've got a murderer's row. I mean, not only is it being spearheaded by Scott Snyder. Seems to be his kind of baby alongside like Nick Dragata, who so they're both doing the absolute Batman. You've also got folks like Al Ewing that'll be a creator on the All In. You said Kelly Thompson, Jason Aaron, Ram V, Tom Taylor, Dexter Soy, Mikhail Janan. I mean, it seems like they're pulling in the best of the best
and
that
they've
they've
had a
got.
lot of those men and women doing titles
Yeah.
already, and then they went and got a couple of the more big name writers. But that's the key
Hmm.
because comics really are about making amazing stories now. The artwork, it's almost funny. After I read a comic, I'll go back and look at some of the artwork
Hmm.
because you take it for granted. You just read through a comic and you just pass over, and you're like, look at all this detail this guy put in
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
one little scene here. So I try to give that its due, but the stories that DC is writing, I don't care whether or not you buy comics to for them to be collectible. They're the best stories out there
Yeah.
right now in terms of what they've done over the last 20 years. Way better than what DC was doing. Let's say 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I like this a lot more than the New 52 stuff. So
Now, well, actually, you bringing up New 52, it leads me to my next question. I guess on the topic of New 52, this, to kind of just stay on All In really quick, that was something that I saw kind of echoed a lot in Scott Snyder's sentiments is there's going to be new number ones and jumping on points for everybody. So you've got the main line of
mhm.
books, which will eventually hit a point where it'll be like a new jumping on point. And then you've got the all in line of books, which obviously are all starting at number one. So their thing, it seems to be a focus on providing jumping on points for absolute new fans, no pun intended,
Yep.
and like existing fans, people that are pulling these titles and then folks that also want to jump in on the main continuity. I guess will this have an impact on like
Hu-
people coming
a
in?
100% because
But
it's
but
just
for the long term, I could understand
yeah.
like a short term, like, hey, I want the new absolute Batman number one. But like in a long term, like, do you think this will have folks like staying on board?
I have a feeling because one of the things that happens in here a lot when you get someone who's never been in a comic store before just happened earlier this week. This awesome, sweet young woman came in and she loves Jason Todd and some of the other Tim Drake and some of the other Robin characters. They're looking for a jumping on point, and what I always tell them is, "Hey, we'll find you a spot, and then you just jump 2 feet in the deep end." And you start swimming around, and because you like Nightwing, we'll pick up a couple issues of Nightwing. While you're reading that, there'll be an advertisement to something else, and you'll come in and be like, "Hey, do you have one of these?" And it leads you down a natural path because the first the hardest thing is when you walk into a comic store and you've never bought a comic before, figuring out where to start. So I love new events where I can be like, hey, Absolute Power just came out. Blood Hunt #1. Ooh, check this out. Ghost Machine #1 has Rook, Redcoat, and Geiger in it. Check that out. And if you like that, come back and we'll get you on the series for it. So I'm always looking for cool jumping on points because I know once you get a couple books, you're 100% coming back for some other stuff. It'll naturally lead you down other pathways. So I kind of like when they do that, rebooting TMNT this week, #1. And although everyone's like, oh, it's a new #1, well, people don't know 150 issues of stories and it can feel really intimidating. Yeah, I love TMNT, but I don't want to pick up issue 138.
I guess, do you ever, on the flip side, when these like new initiatives come through and they're resetting things and starting for new #1s and providing new jumping on points, do you ever find that having a negative impact on customers who are pulling a title,
Yep.
that have been pulling it for 15, 20 issues? Now it's like, wait, they're messing up the, pacing, or I've been invested. Now it's a new #1. Do you ever find that, I guess, that scenario happen?
Yes, a little tiny
Not enough.
bit, but it is
Okay.
not it's not a huge thing. I mean, some people follow writers. So if Jed McKay leaves a title, hey, I'm not going to get it after Jed McKay leaves, or passing it along. Tom Taylor's on Nightwing. A few people might, but most people who get Nightwing just want to get the Nightwing no matter who the writer is, and they'll continue to get it. But people drop titles just because they don't like them.
Okay.
So it doesn't really have anything to do one way or another, or if they're like, but if they change a character in a way that people don't respond to well, aka like how Marvel tried to do that back in the day, switching everybody from the generation to a new generation hero, and it kind of, you lost a lot of Captain America guys when you made him Hydra and you lost this group of people. I think experimenting with new storylines to get new people in the shop is always an amazing thing to do from every age group. But worrying about whether or not someone's going to drop it, if you keep a great writer, then you have a pretty good chance of keeping people on the story. So, I mean, it really just comes down to like Harley Quinn. We've been slowly dropping people off, but DC just really isn't putting out any Harley Quinn comics that have a great story to them that are really positive. On the opposite side, Poison Ivy, they did a new origin for her and we got people adding it. So there's a natural ebb and flow to everything. The continuous ongoing nature of comics sometimes can be a lot for people. You come in and say, hey, I want Amazing Spider-Man every time, but after a couple months of getting 3 Amazing Spider-Man every month, you're like, maybe I'll just take a 6-part series here and there,
I think I could take this money and invest it in stock.
right, exactly, right.
Or
Which way we're
savings.
gonna do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how it works. I mean, sometimes it can be intimidating for a long haul, but for the most part, it's all about whether or not the story keeps someone's interest, and everybody likes something different. So that's the best part.
That's well said. And I want to turn the corner here because you've mentioned Marvel and Blood Hunt so far, and I wanted to tell you, Ben, that in preparation for this, I was like, I mean, Ben, you know my pull list, you know my like the books I pick up. It's
Yep.
been a long time since I picked up like I've been following like a big two event, so I decided to give Blood Hunt a shot because I think you've spoken highly about it. I think I've also seen like some positive praise for it online, and not only that, but Pepe Larez is drawing it, and it is one of the best. I mean, he's one of like the best out here. So I caught up with Blood Hunt, all 4 issues. Issue 5 will be out a week after this episode airs. I guess what I want to hear is, how is Blood Hunt doing for the shop, and what are your thoughts on what Marvel is doing with the, them bringing back the Ultimate line, Blood Hunt being the big event, and the other stuff they got in the pipeline.
Well, the big event, Blood Hunt, is, let's say, it's better than some of the other big events that Marvel's done in the past. They did that red band kind of
Yeah,
polybag.
which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, it is. It's a cool way to do it.
You just get more rib cages and intestines in your
right, a
comic
little
book.
bit, a couple extra pages, a little bit of different dialogue, but it definitely, in terms of selling, was really cool. The covers are awesome. Cool story. Sometimes in comics, I wish DC and Marvel would take some of their characters and do some drastic things. So Blade, obviously, spoiler alert, but Blade is the antagonist of this entire story, but it comes to find out that he was really being controlled by the first vampire, right? And I thought, when I first found out Blade was the bad guy, I thought, you know what? This could be really cool. He could take on the Avengers by himself. He could be an ultimate bad guy to where maybe you end Blood Hunt, but maybe Blade isn't a good guy. Maybe he kind of is a bad guy. And then they, did the convenient thing of, oh, he's possessed by somebody. And that's what you're like, you guys, was it a dream sequence the whole time, dude? Thought you guys were creative. No, but so that's really cool. But what Marvel has done that has changed the game this year is their Ultimate Universe. That stuff's super popular and has brought a ton of new writers in, or readers in. I mean, smart. Anything Jonathan Hickman kind of starts. And with Ultimate Spider-Man caught fire to everything else.
Oh, yeah.
But probably my favorite one of them all is the Ultimate Black Panther.
Oh,
the
wow.
way they've done Killmonger, the way they've done Storm in there, the way they've done Black Panther, allowing, the idea, like I was just talking about, making Blade a bad guy. Well, I love DC Elseworlds because you can take an iconic character and do something you don't normally expect from them. Same thing with the Ultimate Universe. It's fantastic. Green Goblin and Ultimate Spider-Man's kind of a good guy right now. And you can really take these core characters and do them in a different way that isn't, because when you're reading a Batman title, unfortunately, Batman's not dying. Even if they cut off his hand and make it look like he went to an alternate universe and they laser beamed him to death, he somehow is still alive. And that takes a little of the drama away. But in an ultimate universe or an alternate universe, you can kill Batman in the first issue. You're like, damn, what just happened? So I love that stuff.
I guess to your point, with the one Ultimate title that really surprised me by how much creative freedom they gave the creator is Ultimate X-Men. With Peach Momoko. The fact that she's doing both the story and art, I think piqued my interest enough for me to check out the first couple of issues. I'm behind 1 or 2 issues, but I've seen panels from some of these recent ones, and it's like, whoa. This is part of the. I'm like, this is all part of the same line.
Yeah, I think Ultimate X-Men is a great jumping on point for our younger crowd. Because
it does look like a manga.
Yeah, you know what Peach did, which was kind of smart. She took all of these female X-Men characters and put them in a high school together, and their powers start showing up. And then there's social media aspects. Someone records it, and then May Storm, a younger Storm, tries to fry the phone before it gets on the internet, but then it spreads like wildfire. And I've always actually had a lot of admiration for the young generation, because I know for me, I'm 44, I can't imagine what it was like growing up with a cell phone around you in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, where everything is recorded and that's who you are. It becomes your identity. You don't get to get away from bad moments. So I really feel like the younger generation of Americans in around the world, they don't get enough credit for living through a life where everything is recorded and you instantaneously become that person, whatever gets spread on social media. So it was a cool way for her to do the X-Men kind of as a young group of people experiencing their powers for the first time and then dealing with all the social aspects of it. It's a definitely different feel than what you get from like the Ultimate Black Panther and the Ultimate Spider-Man, which are very serious titles. Even the Ultimate regular Ultimates is a very serious title. So it's still serious, but in a great way. They really were able to. And then Peach Momoko's artwork is light and fun and awesome. So it's easy to do and it's easy read.
Well said. Yeah. Stylistically, it stands out. Story-wise, and look and feel, it stands out. And you might just give me motivation to go get caught up.
Yeah, I mean, the Ultimate Black Panther though is really the one. I know everyone's heard about Ultimate Spider-Man, but the Ultimate Black Panther has been really probably my favorite. And being completely candid, I read all the Black Panther stuff, but it is not one of my first go-tos. And this universe where they've taken these characters and the way that they portray them, I really enjoy, and it's been awesome so far. Yeah. Speaking of Blood Hunt, too, the best part of Blood Hunt was probably the Black Panther 3-part series. So if you want something that isn't just the main series of Blood Hunt, they did a bunch of mini-series with Blood Hunt. The Blood Hunt Black Panther.
Okay, that's the one.
I definitely recommend that 3-part series.
Because I was just about to tell you that having only read the main line of books for Blood Hunt, it feels like I'm missing so many details, just
like Night Terrors for DC, and they do all those side stories. There's a couple where you're like, money grab.
It feels,
And then there's some that are like, wow, this was
Yeah.
awesome and a huge part of the story, and thank God I read this one.
I guess reading just the main title of Blood Hunt books, it feels like someone pressed fast forward
Yep.
on the story. You're like, wait a minute, go back. When did that happen?
Well,
You
we
know?
just read the last one, the last Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt, and it has a huge, that one has a huge one, and then the X-23 Wolverine Blood Hunt, a huge reveal in it. But we're like, there's only one issue left. How are Jonathan and I were literally discussing that today. It feels like we're like, wait a minute, this thing's over. Wait, did it even happen? What's happening right now? So
I guess me dipping my toes back in with like a big, summer Marvel crossover event, it feels a little bit of like, the same old kind of tactics. But I will say, Jed McKay's writing is really good. I've been a fan of him. Pepe Larraz. I mean, amazing artwork. The Red Band, versions are like a kind of cool touch to it. So it's been interesting, like dipping my toes back in that. But it does feel like, oh no, you're not getting me, Marvel. I'm not buying, 20
we
books.
always fall into that trap, and the problem is there is a couple of them that aren't any good, that are kind of just fillers. But the Blood Hunters is amazing. The Black Panther Blood Hunt is really good. The Wolverine one shot is very good. The Hulk one was actually a huge part. So most of them are one shots. They don't have anything to do with the regular story. But then they did the one shot Blood Hunt Hulk, and that literally tied in directly into the ongoing horror Hulk. Okay. So if you're a Hulk fan, definitely want to pick that one up.
I guess that's what I wish. I'm looking at this now. I'm like, man, they still haven't just, figured out a way to be like honest or open about, hey, this is a pivotal kind of like, a one shot or arc that ties into the main story. I get why not. I mean, they want to sell as many books as they can, but sometimes I'm like, just tell me which ones I really need to read, and maybe it'll interest me enough to try out these other ones.
Yeah, if they were honest in every single attempt, then you would take them at face value. But the problem is, from everything from the, Batman wedding a couple years ago to the death of Moon Knight to death of Doctor Strange, you're like, oh, this is going to be a big one, the origin of Spider-Boy, and then it peters out. You're like, I don't trust you guys, So I think that's what it is. I make a comment in here all the time. I constantly believe the people who make comics for Marvel and DC have never tried to sell one in their life. They make awesome stuff and they put some great stories together, but you're like, I don't think you guys thought this one through on this aspect here.
I'm jumping around with my line of questions, but actually I want to ask something on that topic. Based on what I guess you'd have to look at it holistically. I couldn't just ask for like this year, but I think I asked you in December last time we recorded if there was one thing you could change about, the comic book industry, as in terms of retail and all of that. Like, what was the thing you'd want to change? And I remember your answer then was you said something about more comics should have like a recap page of, hey, here's what happened last time. Would you change your answer right now, or do you have another one?
No, that's still the most important thing to me. Marvel and DC do it, but they don't always do it. And it's just such an easy way. The inside front cover, they have a bunch of wasted space. But if you want to pick up a new title, especially independent, the first issues always go because people are speculating. So they pick up that first one, and then past the first one, you're not going to get a lot of people added. And the whole point is to try to get people onto a story, and then maybe we can get a reprint. Maybe we can go on the hunt and find the first issue. But if you can tell me where I kind of pick up at right now on this story, I can just continue on. Plus, I read everything, and I still read the recap because it's a month later for some titles, and you just read 180 comics in between those two. And just like a TV show, it ends one way. The next episode doesn't always pick up directly where it left off. You're on a whole nother scene, on a whole nother place, on a whole nother planet. You're like, wait a minute, what is even happening right now? So those recaps really help. So that's definitely one thing that would make it just life a lot easier in the comic book world, because you want to sell out. You want to have stock, but you want to sell out. So it's a little game you play, and you want people to be able to continue on. And they come in and they're like, do you have the first issue? And you're like, no, I have 0, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and no more number ones.
I guess in that regard, is it easier to sell someone on a trade? because it's collecting all the issues. You don't got to worry about missing one. It tells you a complete story for the most part. Like how do trades and collected editions do for you versus like single issues? I imagine single issues is still the dominant, I guess, purchase. But like how do trades and like collected editions do for you in terms of like sales, but also like getting new readers on board?
Well, they're awesome. So they never did this in the 80s and 90s where they did 6 issues of Spider-Man and then the next month they printed it
I
in
was
a
just
book.
about to say,
They never did
has it
that.
been coming out a lot faster?
Oh my God, they're
Trade-wise?
they're like it's like the Switch. Remember how long it took
Yeah.
movies to come on VHS
yeah.
back in the day, where it'd be like 3 years after it was done
Yeah.
in the theater, and then all of a sudden it was Blu-ray and streaming, and a month out of the theater you're watching it at home.
Yeah.
They are printing out the trade paperbacks for all the titles. So like Scarlet Witch, Incredible Hulk, Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, when I was younger, some of my favorite things to do were go to comic shops that had trade paperbacks, that had some of these collected editions, because I wanted to read Maximum Carnage, but you weren't going to find all 14 parts of the Spider-Man book there. And so being able to pick up the book with the entirety of it in there was one of my favorite ways to read comic stories. So in terms of getting people interested in something when we can't find all the comics, it's great, but it's also very, very useful for, say, sequels. So like Last Ronin Re-Evolution, the sequel's out now, and the first comics of Last Ronin are worth something. So they're not super easy to find, even reissues. So getting the hardcover book for somebody or a trade paperback of The Last Ronin, and then you can jump on in the comics, boom. Same thing with DC's Dark Knights of Steel. The original Tom Taylor story was amazing, 12-part series. They just started it all winter where Deathstroke's a Viking, and it is amazing, right? But we have a ton of people. We've been ordering every single day here, the first 2 trade paperbacks of Dark Knights of Steel, so people can read the original story and then pick up the comics now and continue buying it in the comic form. So I love the trade paperback books. Deceased is still one of my favorite stories of all time from DC. So I just ordered another 5 copies of that. And at the Limit, we sell all our books 35% off all the time. So what's better than that, man? So,
damn right.
I mean, look, man, that we did a Transformer trade paperback book, our own book, so the first 6 issues. So I loaded up on 7, 8, 9, and 10 issues, and I sell the first 6 here, and then 7, 8, 9, and 10 out of the box. Boom. Geiger, one of the hottest new things, the brand new exclusive hardcover book. So
this is also why we did a video podcast, folks. So you can see,
so you can see that stuff, everything that we got. But that's the reason we get these,
Yeah.
because then you can pick up that Geiger, you can get that Ghost Machine, and then you can decide if you want to keep reading the new stuff. And it's an easy way to do it, because going on the hunt for those comics isn't always the cheapest.
Ben, how important would you say? I guess what's more important? I'll pit these two against each other. You can also just say they're both equally important. But what's more important to have in terms of a trait and being a comic shop owner and retailer? Creativity or like the ability to forecast? Because I think that's where you excel at, is that you're both creative, where you're thinking like, okay, I've got this trade, but I'm also going to bundle it with these issues and sell it that way. And then forecasting wise, I feel like you always do a good job of like you just said, that their Last Ronin 2, it's going to be a sequel. Let me stock up on the trades. Let me push those. Like, what do you think is the more important trade to have? Or are they just equally important?
Well, I think that it's very important to know what you're doing, like know the product. And if you try to fake it with people, they'll know. Oh, Jonathan, you
Bye,
leaving?
John.
See you, Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan, the greatest worker of all
He's
time.
finally
See you, my
clocking
man.
out.
Greatest comic shop employee of all time. Love that guy. Friendly neighborhood, Jonathan. But I think it's very important to have a knowledge of what you're doing and really be immersed in it. So, like today, Monday, where we're recording this, there's a lot of final order cutoff comics, and a lot of those comics are variant covers. And I just look at the artist, and then I look at the cover, and we make a guesstimation about how popular it's going to be. But because I love buying comics, not just for the stories, but because of the artists, it makes it a little easier for me. Plus, I can see the sales numbers. Oh, it's Scotty Young. Yep, we're getting 25 of those. Oh, it's Pichu Momoko. Yep, we're getting those. Oh, it's Alex Ross. Yep, we're getting a bunch of those. But the other thing just that I think is a key to life that anybody can apply to anything, anywhere is, man, when I did this Transformer book or when I did this Geiger book or when we do any really retailer exclusive comic, I never had that idea ahead of time. I got an email and I saw my brain was like opportunity and I just jumped in it. And that's what I think is important and what other people could potentially apply to their own life is sometimes you just have to be open to opportunities that you're not even thinking of. And then all of a sudden at 11:01 a.m. on a random Thursday, boom, don't wait, just do. And so we jump on some of those opportunities. We have a Berserker exclusive coming out this week with Steven Sokovia, a full foil. And I've never done a Berserker title. And we've never done a foil one. But Boom Studios, it was first come, first serve. They sent an email out saying, hey, it's first come, first serve. Who wants that? And I mean, within 2 seconds of getting the email, I want it. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, now we just make it happen around it. But I saw an opportunity. My brain said, go for it. And sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I've taken some opportunities. I did a Tyler Kirkham exclusive for Prophet #1, the facsimile reproduction, because I heard that Jake Gyllenhaal was going to play Prophet in a movie at some point.
No,
right?
I remember that news. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's still happening or not, but I really thought, I was like, oh, okay, the movie's going to be popular. People are going to come looking for it. We got Tyler Kirkham to do a sweet homage. And I mean, I'll probably be giving away those comics for the rest of my life. So, yeah, well, you got it. You are going to make mistakes. But I think, one of the keys to this place, or one of the things that I do on the regular, is opportunities that I never even had an idea about get presented to me, and then instantaneously I make a decision and I just jump 2 feet in the deep end, or I say no. But I don't think about it for 3 weeks. I don't weigh all the pros and cons. I trust my ability and what I do in here and how I think about things. And everyone has that same natural gut instinct. So if you can just follow your gut instinct and look for be open for opportunities, and then one presents itself, jump on it, I think you can find a lot of positive things happen in your life.
That is well said, Ben. You're always chock full of good business advice and life advice. I think, the stuff you speak, it's like, nah, that comes from, experience. Ben isn't just out here preaching. He's actually applying the things that he's
I've
saying.
learned everything actually doing it. It wasn't a book.
Best way to do it.
It wasn't a book. And then I like to listen to people because I make jokes about not being smart, and IQ isn't everything, but really listening to other people and taking in what they have to say. And, oh man, I never thought about it that way. Maybe I'll start applying this to my life. Definitely is a positive thing, because that's the whole point in having all this. I mean, I'm only 6 years into owning a comic shop. So there are some people who have been in this business for 30 years, and it's a whole different game. If you knew this in the early 2000s compared to what it is now, or even when I started in 2018, DC did one B cover variant and no incentives. And now it's 4 covers for every Batman comic, a 1 in 25, a 1 in 50. So you never really know what path you're headed down, but it is very nice to have amazing people. Like picking Jonathan's brain is amazing.
On the topic of variants, because I've noticed that too, as someone that used to work at a shop in like the early 2010s and whatnot, it does feel like the market has been oversaturated with the number of variants. Sometimes me and Drew actually were talking about this last week, is that we'll come in here and we're like, wait, did I pick that issue up? Oh no, that's just a different cover.
Yep.
And sometimes it kind of messes with your head, and obviously there's covers that you want, but they end up being 1 in 100. And I guess I want to hear from you, like, do you think that there's too many variant covers, or I guess what are your thoughts on what seems to be like the oversaturation of variant covers? Like, has that helped you in any way? Has it harmed business in any way? Or
it makes it hard because generally the A cover is collected. However, one of the reasons that we are busy on Wednesday and there's a line of people when we open the door on Wednesday morning is because we'll have all the variants here and there will be a selection and people can walk in on a Wednesday, didn't pre-order it 3 months ahead of time, didn't go through the Yellow Pages magazine style to look for the comic variant they wanted. They can just come here and find it. And I love some of them. Like, so they did black suited variant covers for Marvel recently. And then DC will do some cool foil variants or Christmas card variants. I love them. I just wish they would do one for every issue, an A cover and then just one awesome B cover. So like this whole month is Deadpool Wolverine, and I know Marvel wants to promote the movie, and obviously Deadpool and Wolverine are very popular, but there's a Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe variant and a Wolverine Deadpool Weapon Extraction variant on the same book. And so even if you love Deadpool and Wolverine, these aren't $1.25 anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of them are $4.99. Some are $5.99. The foils are $8.99 now. So if Marvel and DC and some of these companies that put out 4 variants for some books, they're short-sighted because it's a classic corporate, oh, well, if we put it out, we sell more. You know, the shop buys an additional 10 copies. Instead of just getting 60 cover A, he got 15 cover B, 10 cover C, 10 cover D. Now we got 100 total copies. However, it would have a bigger impact if they just sold the, let's say use Deadpool Kills example where they're doing them across all the titles. If they sold just the Deadpool Kills Marvel Universe variants for 1 month and then did the Deadpool Weapon Extraction variants the next month, it forces people to pick and choose. And so for that aspect, I do wish it would change a little tiny bit, but like anything else, everything goes in ebbs and flows. And you've seen, it definitely go like that. DC has changed the way that they distribute comics recently since COVID. Plus, their incentive game changes a little bit. Plus, their variants. Sometimes they just do one cover again. So it'll go both ways. But I think the multiple variant game is primarily a money grab.
Okay.
That's where it came from. The idea was, oh, we can sell 100 more comics because we have 4 variants for this cover. But like X-Men 1 came out, and it's like, we don't need 8 covers for it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you could save some of these for the later issues. These would be awesome because then there's some variants where you're like, well, that's just silly and we don't even need it.
I guess, just thinking about like my relationship variants, it was like a special thing because there wasn't so many, and it would normally just be limited to like that first issue. Now it feels, there's 8 variants for the 3rd issue and 4th issue, and you're like, what are we doing? And it makes me think of like an altered version of this saying, which is like, if everything's special, then nothing is special. It almost is like it's like a too much of a blatant money grab, in my opinion. It kind of like turns
it's 100% where it came from. It's definitely a corporate idea, and people saw somebody else doing it and they hooked it up. But I will say there are some companies like, let's say Skybound. They do an A and a B cover, and then incentives, which is fine with me. I'm cool with, but like Transformers, there's just an A and a B every week. Scarlet, there's just an A and a B. Destro, just an A and a B. And then there's retailer exclusives like we do, and the incentives, which are awesome. But that A and the B makes it so easy for the collectors. If you're a Transformer fan, you can say, hey, I just want the A and B cover. Because we have had multiple people who come in and say, I want every Deadpool cover. And then they come in, they haven't been here in 2 months. And there's been 3 issues of Deadpool, and there's 6 covers for each one, and all of a sudden they've got 25 comics to buy, and they're like, okay, I just want the B cover. So that we've definitely found that where I've gotten screwed a little bit because I've ordered it, I pulled it, I got it, and they're like, oh, I don't need 8 Incredible Hulk covers. I just wanted the A and B cover, So,
and I guess it just makes me also. This is the last thing I'll say, and we'll move on. But it also makes me feel a little icky that it just feels like these companies are tapping into like this. I don't know. I want to say FOMO. I guess like nerd collector FOMO.
Yep.
They're kind of like it's kind of almost predatory is a word I'm thinking of when it comes to these variants. And I've also seen like a weird impact where it's more about the variants than the actual story, which is what I appreciate about you, Ben, is that you're always talking about the story, the art, what's inside of the book. And I think sometimes variants and the talks of like, the expensive ones and the rare ones takes away from like what really matters about, these books, which is like the story, what's inside of it.
Yeah, I know. And I wonder if people think I'm full of shit when I say that the worst part about this place is the money,
Yeah.
but it is. And one of the reasons that we hook people up with discounts, like if you take care of us and you come and get your stuff and you get a lot of stuff, we give you some pretty solid discounts to boot. If someone wants to come in and try something and we're adding something on, hey, let's knock a buck off that first issue and let's try it out, see if you can do it. I gave away the first trade paperback of Deceased to someone, and I said, you take this. And they're like, why are you giving this to me, Ben? Because I was like, because later this week when you're done reading it, you're going to come back and buy the other 3 trade paperbacks of Deceased, and that's 100% what happened. So obviously I need to make money. And I want to make money. I do cool things so that and life is expensive. So but the money part of comics is the worst part of it.
Yeah.
I make jokes with people all the time and I say, if you come in here and you come in and you're like, oh, how much money do I owe Ben? Stop buying fucking comics. Like, you don't have to buy comics. You don't have to. If it's literally giving you stress in your life, man, I love you and I want you to come in here. But don't try to make me feel guilty for the comics that you want. If you don't want them, no harm, no foul. You don't have to get them. It's the bonus to life, So in that aspect, but it's tough, man. And that's why we try to help people. We try to take care of them because in this industry, they're not $1.25 anymore, baby. They're not $2.99. There's some that are easy $6.99 every time.
I don't think this is applicable anymore. Well, no, I'm sorry. The reference is kind of outdated, but I think the spirit is applicable here. What you just said makes me think of this Big Boy lyric from this Outkast song. He says, instead of paying for that wood grain steering wheel, pay your fucking beeper bill, bitch.
Right, 100%. There's multiple people in here where I have to be their parents, and I'm like, maybe you shouldn't be getting these,
I was thinking about you mentioning, giving that copy of Deceased away for free. It got me thinking about the difference. I guess let me take a step back. It's always an interesting conversation, me talking to Blythe about like comic book culture, but also comic shop culture, because I think it's still such an interesting way of doing business, and like your relationship with your customers is a little more, personal, a little more deeper than say like me going into, I don't know, like I guess barbershop is not a good one, but you going into like Publix or Winn-Dixie or someplace, it's a simple transaction.
Going to Staples to get get some paper.
So some of I think the practices when you share it with someone that is like in a traditional business role, like Blythe is, it can kind of be like, well, that's not how you should do business, or wow, that's an interesting way of doing business. But hearing you say that, for you, it's almost like you've got to make an investment in your customers for them to like keep coming back and being invested in these stories. And I guess, that just kind of maybe puts a bigger spotlight on the role of the comic shop and the owners, because it's up to you guys to sell these stories, like have people invested in these companies and these publishers and these writings. Granted, I think the comics should do a large chunk of that work, but you're kind of building that bridge for these people to be new fans.
Well, yeah, and you want to create a place that they want to be. So people, especially if you've been to Jacksonville and you've come out to Southside, this is very busy. We're right near the St. John's Town Center, so around rush hour traffic, this traffic is brutal. Yeah. So I always make jokes between about 5 and 6 o'clock at night when people walk in. If Chloe and I or Jonathan or Santana are in here, they'll walk in at like 5:15 and it'll be like, Jonathan, you got to be extra nice to that guy. He just drove through the worst fucking traffic of all time to get here, Yeah. And you could just order this stuff online. There's a ton of online dealers. Right? So you could order it online. You could order books online. A long time ago, before I started, this is probably 2010. My younger sister was in the book publishing business. She wanted to start just a standard bookstore. And her husband, they thought about every pro and con, and they actually wrote an email to the CEO of Barnes and Noble with just asking him some basic questions about running a bookstore or potentially starting a bookstore. There is such a big, giant corporation, but the guy actually responded. And I took to heart, I read, she showed the email to me, and one of the reasons she didn't open the bookstore was because the CEO of Barnes and Noble at the time told her, what is going to make your bookstore different than every other bookstore? It's not going to be the books. So what is it about your bookstore that's going to attract people there? And they couldn't come up with an answer. And my answer was, heck, man, you just want to be here. You can see all your friends. You can hang out. We get people all the time who call up here on the phone. I know their phone numbers. I got to memorize on the caller ID. And I'm like, Jonas is about to tell me about X-Men #1. And I'll answer the phone and be like, hey, what's up? And he'll act like I called him. Yeah. And he called up here and he just wants to say, hey, did you see what happened at that X-Men 1? And I'm like, yep, I did. I saw it. And that's so cool, right. And so I think part of that is, I've got other men and women who just come up here, even if you're not buying anything, just to hang out for a little while. Obviously, I don't know if a lot of the people out of the state or out of the city know that a woman launched her entire car through my shop a couple months ago here. But after the accident, the people that showed up with gloves and plastic bags and shovels and just trying to help us open the shop again, that right there was it. That was what the comic shop is about. Right. And then we get people that this is their shop, man, and they want to be proud of it. So I try to, it's hard. Sometimes you give people an inch and they take a mile. Comic shops are tough. You really try to be super understanding and compassionate because life is hard and this is a bonus business. But every single day, try to remind myself how lucky we are to do this. And one of the reasons that we get to continue to keep the doors open isn't just because of the product. I think it's the atmosphere. I mean, you guys coming out Wednesday, start screaming out something, and from the front door, people are already having fun in your twans doing a TikTok video. It's a whole thing that we got going on, and the atmosphere is what fuels it.
To all of that, you said all that really well. And I was thinking today, I've seen this phrase in the past month. I just feel like this phrase has kind of been like popping up, but like a third place. They say that in today's, society where it's like, social media and just being online, easy access to the internet, that we've kind of lost, human interactions, but also like we've started to lose like our third place. So a place that isn't home or work, some place that you go hang out, have the opportunity to meet other people, converse.
No one's going to judge you because you're a fan of Beast Boy of the Titans or, I got comic shamed in my shop by college students this week because I didn't know about the Powder Puff Girls.
Ben, first of all, I was here for that. Also, it's Powerpuff Girls.
Powerpuff. I keep saying powder. I keep saying powder. Powerpuff. I know. It's Kelly Thompson. I know that. The Powerpuff Girls. But, yeah, so you were here for it, so I'm not lying.
Part of the shaming, to be honest with you.
Yes, that's why. Because I think Powder Puff was like all girls high schools used to put together like a little like football league. I think that's where I got the name from. But yeah, no, Powerpuff Girls. There's plenty of people in here where if you were in a normal setting in life and you grab that Powerpuff Girls off the table, there might be
a locker.
Yeah, you'd be like, all right, this guy's a fucking nerd.
I guess, Ben, I say all that to say the shop is my third home, third place and third home, and I think it's applicable for a lot of the people that shop here. I want to shift gears here because, you're talking about this being a place for people to hang out and see friends, and because we're recording this on the Monday before, what is it, the 24, July 24th's new comic book day, TMNT #1 comes out, and they're doing a pizza party, right?
Yeah, we're having a pizza party. Yep.
Is gave you a gift card to spend it how you wanted, to promote, to bring people into the shop, and you're throwing a pizza party.
Yep.
Which I think, hopefully if you're listening to this and you were not aware of that, hopefully that got you excited and you'll be coming to Gotham City Limit this Wednesday for that. But I guess I brought that up because I wanted to hear about what's been some of the standout moments or things going on in the I guess in the indie publisher route. We spent a lot of time talking
Yeah,
about Marvel
yeah.
and Blood Hunt, Ultimate, and DC All In and etc. But when you think about 2024 in the year of like independent comic
Mhm.
publishers, what's been some of the standout things?
Well, I think it goes back to what we talked about, I think initially on this podcast here, which was what I thought about comics in 2024. And one of the reasons that I said I don't know if they've ever been better in terms of stories is because the independent stuff is as good as Marvel and DC or better. So obviously, I think in our 2023, Transformers was a huge thing. It just started up, right? And they're getting that whole Void Rivals, Energon universe. But the stories have only gotten better. So the Cobra and Duke series are done. We're doing store exclusives for all 5 covers of the Destro. They're doing the Scarlet.
Which was awesome. I read the first
Yeah,
2 issues, and Kelly Thompson, I
but
mean,
again, the best
put a
part
foot in
about
it.
it is that I'm 44. I love GI Joe in the 80s, but the only thing I really remember about GI Joe, other than Duke and Snake Eyes and some of the big names, I know who Cobra Commander is and Zartan because of his glow in the dark skin, but was that no one ever got hit by any of the red or blue lasers that they shot at each other. No one ever got shot. It was just lasers and tanks and helicopters that got hit. But now I get to reread all these stories about these characters, but it's like an alternate universe. So like the Duke read, the 5-part series Duke was like reading Jason Bourne. Except Duke was Jason Bourne. He's on the run from the federal government because he knows that Transformers exist and the government telling him they don't.
It's such a
So
cool,
what a
like,
cool
concept,
way
yeah.
to do it. What a cool way. And then I don't remember all these characters. So, on our second issue, our exclusive of Destro #2 that we just did, we've got the Crimson Twins, Tomax and Zagmod. And while I remember them, I do not remember them, like what the
Yeah.
whole fucking point of them was in the comics of G.I. Joe or Cobra at all. And so now being able to read this story, Destro's a weapons manufacturer. They're a weapons manufacturer. Oh, as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, I get reintroduced to all these new Transformers again. Oh, I forgot about that guy. What does this guy do?
You
I
get
I didn't have to know 30 years of history. So was that an Energon joke?
It was,
I didn't get it. All right.
And it was so bad. I'm glad you stepped all over it because it was pretty terrible.
No,
Okay.
but for that aspect, it's been amazing.
Okay.
And then the other one I want to bring up real quick before we get off topic is the Ghost Machine universe.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah, and that is amazing. The Geiger is my favorite thing ever. Like in comics right now, the 2-headed dog Barney has my heart. There's a very insidious thing happening in the new Geiger series, and I'm very worried about where it's heading. And this has an emotional thing on me, and that's why I know I love it. But Jeff Johns is killing it. That Ghost Machine that was the one shot that kicked off the Rook, the Red Coat, and the Geiger. Now these stories are amazing, and every time they come out, I can't wait. I'm taking them home tonight. The new Rook comes out this week, and are some of the first things that I read when they come out every week. So I read DC and I read Marvel, but man, we're talking about a brand new one that just came out last week, Kill All Immortals by Zach Kaplan, Dark Horse comic, and then Paranoid Gardens. New one that just came out last week, sold out, first issue right off the bat. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, crushing independent story. Something's Killing the Children is as popular as independent stories go, and they're on the mid-30s,
Which makes me extremely happy. One, I could not see. I mean, I remember when that first issue came out and thinking like, oh, okay, this is pretty popular. People are picking it up. It's sold out. But to see it, the longevity of it, 30 issues in. Hell, I went to a James Tinian panel at C2E2 where he was just talking about, something is killing the children, the expansive universe, like the new issues you got coming out that's going to explain like origins. It was a packed out panel. And sitting in that, I was like, wow, he's like, he's got something here. And it just made me think about all of the lightning in a bottle that Image as in Skybound, and all Dark Horse and Boom and IDW have been able to capture in a bottle of like some of these titles.
I mean, even Boom Studios has been making just amazing stories, things that you wouldn't. I Heart Skull Crusher, and just all these random tiny titles that maybe in years past you're like, I have no interest in that. But because these writers are so talented and they build up so much credibility, I'm willing to follow Kelly Thompson to any title she writes. People are willing to follow James any title he writes. So Deviant is very popular. A messed up Santa Claus story, I mean, and that's what people want. They want real stories and real authentication. And when they spend $3.99 to feel like, I would rather go home tonight and read 10 comics than to scroll through Netflix for a half hour looking for some TV show that probably isn't worth my time.
Yeah. And I guess there's something else to be said about like all of these independent companies popping up, or initiatives popping up that are being led by, Ghost Machine is being led by, spearheaded by Jeff Johns. But granted, he's got, a who's who roster of artists and writers also doing books. I mean, DC Comics all in, granted it's with DC, but, the excitement that Scott Snyder's got, and, Kelly Thompson making the announcement, and I mean, the list and Distillery, I think, is a great
it's so
example.
popular now. These guys wouldn't have been this popular in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
That is true. Very true. And I think that lends to my point that seeing their excitement, seeing them being empowered, knowing that, this is something they own, so they're putting their all into it. I don't know. It's to your point, like a great time for comics, especially like non-big two independent publishers. I've been fascinated in the amount of quality books coming out.
I mean, look at all the shows that come out of it. And I mean, it's going to continue. It's only the beginning. I mean, speaking of how popular The Boys and Invincible and some of these titles are now that make it, right? But Penguin Random House, the world's largest book distributor, just bought Boom Studios. And I believe, people ask me why, and I believe the only reason they did it was to get a hold of Berserker, Keanu Reeves' title. It is going to blow up. There's going to be an anime. There's going to be movies. They already did a 12-part series. They're doing 2 more one-shots this summer coming up, including this week. Like I was talking about earlier, the Steven Sokovia exclusive we're doing. And I only think it's going to grow. And I think Penguin Random House saw how popular Invincible and The Boys were and said, you know what, we need our Keanu Reeves, Berserker is going to blow up. We need to have our hand in the cookie jar. So I think that's the whole reason they bought that one studio alone. And so I think that one's going to continue to grow.
Now, I guess, does that news, how does that news impact you? Like, how does Penguin Random House owning Boom Studios impact you? Is it just that they'll be distributing the books, or they're gonna? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, really, it impacts me because now we're guaranteed that Boom Studios is going to continue on. All right, I mean, obviously, if they're out there selling. Comic books are a tough market and you make a lot of, but I think they built themselves up to a point to where they could market themselves and say, hey, we've got these properties, you want it. But in terms of just straight distribution of the comics, it doesn't really affect us one way or another who distributes it. Penguin Random House will have a vested interest in making sure that Boom's comics sell well. So they'll obviously do a lot of marketing from their side. And so that'll help us in an aspect. But that would probably be the only impact that it has on us. It just brings awareness.
Yeah,
I mean, more people telling me, bringing up Penguin Random House, but when I was buying comics in 2015 before in a store, I didn't even know what a distributor of comics and title, I don't know the names of these companies. So the fact that it's mainstream tells you what you need to know about it.
And I guess to your point, is that simple, Penguin Random House is looking at Boom, the properties they've got. There's a lot of different opportunities to do more than just, books and comic books and whatnot.
Right. Just get there, continuing to grow.
Yep. All right, Ben, how about we shift gears and maybe do more of a rapid fire round here. And I got some questions for you in terms of like best-selling books and other questions. So I guess I'll start off with that one. Ben, what would you say has been the best-selling comic book for you this year so far?
Marvel's Ultimate Universe, Ultimate Spider-Man, the whole Ultimate Universe stuff is about as popular as it gets. And then still to this day, it's unbelievable what Transformers does. Yeah, you got Transformers and Ultimate Spider-Man are probably our 2 largest pulls.
Where's Batman fit into
Right
that?
there,
Right
right
there.
there, right behind it.
Okay.
A few. Batman's been great too. Chip Z just created Failsafe,
Mhm.
which is the ultimate Batman villain, out of the Zur-El mindset of Batman. So it's been fantastic, and Batman is right there, but it's ultimate Spidey and Transformers.
Okay.
Yep.
What's been the most, I guess, what's been the best selling or most surprising first issue? Like, is there a first issue that just blew sales out the water?
Well, it's I would say Ghost Machine and the Geiger stuff is incredibly popular, and then other little titles that you're not necessarily anticipating, but independent stuff, and like the one I brought up. I sold 40 copies of Zach Hablin's Kill All Immortals, and it's a Dark Horse title. And you didn't really expect that many people to pick that one up, and that has been an amazing first issue. That just happened about 2 weeks ago too, so that's but definitely one that was completely unexpected, but because it was a Zach Kaplan title, I took a risk on it, so that worked out nicely.
All right, what would you say has been your favorite personal series?
My personal favorite stuff. Well, okay, first off, I'm reread Walking Dead in full color every 2 weeks it comes out. I never read it from the beginning. Obviously, we're in the middle of the 90s issues, but every 2 weeks that comes out, it's the first thing I take home, one of those. And then we've already brought this up, but I take home the any Energon universe. So Void Rivals is coming home with me tonight, and anything from the Ghost Machine universe, Rook 4 is coming home with me tonight. So those issues right there are the ones I go to immediately. Marvel stuff, the Ultimate Black Panther, absolutely love. That's probably one of my keys. A smaller series that doesn't get a lot of hype that was fantastic was the Black Widow Hawkeye series. Hawkeye actually ended up with his own symbiote, and it's going to lead into the Venom War. But it was a really good 4-part series. And then the Get Fury storyline by Garth Ennis going on right now is amazing. And you know what's funny about it is it's so much more fucking bloody than the polybagged red band sealed bag Marvel comic. It's just a normal comic, no warning except 18 plus on the front, and it is bloody. It's Fury and Punisher set in Vietnam, dude. It's so cool.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised that a Garth Ennis book is more bloodier.
But it's
any other
totally
Marvel
out of nowhere. Just Get Fury. You never really knew what it was even going to be about. Is it a Nick Fury story? What are we even telling? And it's set in the 70s. Nick Fury gets captured by the Vietnamese, and the U.S. government wants to assassinate Nick Fury, so he doesn't give up the secrets, and they send the Punisher in to do it. Wow. And it just goes from there. But it's a Garth Ennis story, which he is amazing, and it is just an awesome story. And I think they're on the 3rd part of that right now, and that's definitely, if you want something random to pick up Marvel wise, the Get Fury is awesome.
Give me another sleeper pick. Like, what's a sleeper comic series right now that you feel like not enough people are reading or checking out?
Well, okay, so this is weird because how popular G.I. Joe is, right? With the Destro, Scarlet, Duke, and Cobra. One of the best stories going on right now is the ongoing G.I. Joe that Image allowed Larry Hama to write. Okay, and
with the sweet Andy Cooper.
And I got to be honest with you, I tried to read the last story that Larry Hama was supposed to do, in the 290s up to 300, that kind of ended his run before it switched over to Skybound. They didn't tell him he was going to continue on, but since 301 to 307, it is as good a comic, as good a G.I. Joe series as there is. So if you like the other Energon Universe stuff, going back and reading what's going on now with the Larry Hama G.I. Joe stuff is awesome. And then I don't know if you've heard about this, but they did a 4-part Thanos series, and people are sleeping on this so hard because Infinity Gauntlet's so good. It was such an iconic story, and obviously Marvel likes to regurgitate some of their ideas. But currently they did a 4-part series, Thanos, and in the 4th part, obviously, everyone knows Thanos loves death, and death rejects him at every turn, which kind of leads to most of these crises. He traps her in a new Infinity Stone, so it's a Death Stone. Oh, wow. And now all the Infinity Stones are inside of other characters. So Marvel characters, Star, some of these other characters are the Marvel Infinity Stones, and now Thanos can use this new Death Stone, first appearance in Thanos #4. Hint, hint. People are sleeping on that thing, but he can use that Death Stone to now try to suck the Infinity Stones out from the other characters. And in the annuals of Marvel, Thanos annual, Amazing Spider-Man annual, and then the most recent, the third part, was the Thor annual. It is called Infinity Watch. And it is a series being told in the annuals, and people are sleeping hard on that. Like it's one of the coolest stories Marvel's is doing, wow. And it's all about Thanos and the new Infinity Stone. So I don't know how you couldn't see the writing on the wall there.
I mean, I couldn't see the writing. I guess I've been asleep on that.
Exactly.
Ben,
got him.
What would you say? What? All right.
Here's a cool one shot that came out this year that we haven't talked about. That was maybe one of the coolest comics ever, and it ties right into what I was just talking about: Thanos and the Infinity Stone. Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime.
That is on my list.
Such a cool comic, one shot, and an amazing story. I think it was Jason Aaron, right?
Yeah.
And what a cool idea that he picked out the first dime that Uncle Scrooge ever had, and that was basically an Infinity Stone that tied all the multiverses Scrooge together, and then one evil Scrooge trying to collect all the Infinity Dimes. Man, it was such an awesome story. The covers are iconic. The Alex Ross cover, obviously. Have you ever seen the meme where it shows what would happen if you actually tried to dive into a large thing of coins?
Like a pancake.
Yeah, you're like broken bones everywhere. But no, that was an amazing one shot that came out this year. Highly, highly recommend to people.
That issue had no right being that
good. No, it was amazing. The way it ended, I'm not going to give it away because I want people to come. You can still get it here and you can find it online, but what an awesome read for what you were like. I wonder what they're going to do with this. What a cool story.
It definitely was, I think, my most surprising liked comic. It was the most surprising issue I picked up that I didn't know I would like that much, but it was pretty excellent.
And then obviously that Doom. Holy smokes, because the MF Doom. It's so funny what'll make a comic catch fire, and then you have people that have never bought a comic in their entire life calling me from Orlando, like, I'll drive up there and buy it if you've got one for me.
I guess what's interesting about that is that MF Doom, I mean, it's really just tangentially related. Now, granted, there is the first
it's just
page
the quote.
is the lyric in the quote. But yeah, to your point, I could not foresee it being, I knew it was going to be a popular comic, right? Sanford Green, Jonathan Hickman, Doctor Doom, one shot,
Galactus.
But I had no idea it would sell like that
Me
or
neither.
be that popular.
I mean, I got 100 some copies and they were gone and not many people on it. And I wish I had gotten 200 copies. You know, it was that popular.
It made me want more. I guess maybe to your point, there's plenty of one shots out there that I'm not aware of, but it made me want more of these prestige like one shots from Marvel where you're getting like the absolute best to tell like a self-contained story, one artist, double-sized comic.
Yep.
Because I think that book was like what, $8?
Oh yeah, $7.99, but it was 60 pages, 80 pages. Yeah, yep. It was awesome.
Okay, what would you say has been your biggest what has made you the most excited? What has made you the most excited in comics as a retailer this year? Like whether that be like a piece of news that broke, a new character that's been introduced, maybe something that the publishers have done on their end. Like what's made you the most excited this year as a retailer?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I would say, let's see, my most excited, I think, is probably them bringing back some of the iconic writers to then come back to some of these titles to continue it on, whether it's Peter David doing a sweet Marvel title that he used to write in the 90s and coming back to continue the story, or some of the other groups that we have as well. I think what I get specifically excited about is when they tell a brand new Elseworld story that is completely unpredictable. And so that's kind of what gets me hyped and gets me going. But the big titles, like the big things that Marvel do, Blood Hunt, Absolute Power, All In, those things can tend to Boy Cries Wolf. right? You kind of get that. But I'll tell you something I got excited about hearing last week is that there's going to be a prequel to Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. So they're going to do a story that's
Wow.
earlier in that. So it kind of tells a previous story about the serial killer bear.
About Samantha.
But those
Nice.
kind of things get me excited when I know that we're going to get a prequel to it. And then I am all in on Berserker. I think Berserker is going to continue to be one of the most popular comics in the world, and it's only going to be something that people continue to come in and get. So the new Berserker, making an announcement to do 2 new one-shots this summer and then a new 12-part series with Keanu Reeves again. That's right. I got my mind all over those comics.
I think my most anticipated series that has just been recently announced is that Mark Waid and Chris Samney are doing a Batman or Robin year 1.
Yeah.
And it starts in October. Mark Waid being one of my favorite writers of all time, and then Chris Samney being an insanely talented artist who has, I guess, strived and always wanted to do Batman.
Yep.
I don't know if you follow him on social media, but on his Instagram, I want to say it's October. Instead of doing like Inktober, he'll do Battober, where every day he does like a different Batman sketch.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know I'm following him on it, but speaking of Mark Waid, that's why Absolute Power is so cool, because if you go read about Mark Waid writing this new story for DC, he wanted to make sure that he told a story that was about characters you've never seen him. And he likened back to his Kingdom Come run that he did in the 90s with Alex Ross, and how important it was to tell a story with these iconic characters about in a way that people had never seen them before. But this is a little tidbit. If you are a Kingdom Come fan and or a Mark Waid fan, for about 5 issues in the Batman Superman World's Finest run, he took Batman and Superman back to the Kingdom Come world.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so he was chasing down this guy who ended up being Magog in the future, a character that they were following. But to actually have 5 comics as an adult in 2024 that were back to like my favorite comic series of all time, which is Kingdom Come, and Mark Waid back doing DC Comics is awesome.
Yeah, it's a good year. I mean, to your point, DC's been on one.
They got great writers.
Yeah,
I mean, you can say whatever you want to about the collectability of the comics, and I think they're awesome. They're not as collectible as Marvel, because Marvel's cinematic universe really blew up, but it's only a matter of time, and the stuff that DC's writing now holds up to anything. So
all eyes on you, James Gunn.
That's right.
Ben, I want to share with you my personal favorite comic list, and if you want to chime in for a remark on any of these, feel free to. All right, so my favorite comic books and comic series of 2024 so far, and in no particular order, but I think for the most part these are kind of in an order. For starters, Dawn Runner by Ram V and oh my god,
that's funny. I mean,
Kegel.
it didn't even pop into my head, but that has been an amazing 4 or 5 issues so far. I think we got the 4th part 2 weeks ago.
And I want to say the artist is Evan Kegel. Kegel?
Yep.
Hopefully I'm saying that right. But it is probably one of the best drawn comic books out right now, period. But if you're a fan of mechs or kaijus, it is a must. Or Evangelion, Gundam, etc. You mentioned Beneath the Trees. Granted, it started last year, but it ended this year. And to me, that's what's important. Probably one of the best endings to a comic book. They stuck the landing.
Just a great read.
Yeah. Animal Pound by Tom King on Boom Studios is, I think that to me is a sleeper, because it's Tom King, but he's not doing any superheroes. He's not doing like Wonder Woman he's doing right now, or his more
the
kind
Penguin or some of these bigger titles,
or Helena Winhorn. This is like his adaptation of Animal Farm, and it's a great twist. I look forward to that one every month. So Animal Pound is on my list. Local Man is still on my list because I think it's going.
That's
strong.
one of Friendly Neighborhood Jonathan's favorite things. Tim Seeley and Local Man is a great. It's just so cool the way he ties all the characters back together again.
I mean, looking at my list, I think this one would be the most adept or best suited to be adapted into like a live action show.
Yep.
Because it's just like it's just what did they call it? Like I forgot what the name of the genre they had it called, but it was like superhero town noir. I think
Right.
it's doable.
Well, it's the superhero vibe, but
It's quaint.
sort of in a real way,
Yeah.
like you can really identify
Well said.
with like this is a human.
Yeah, exactly. From the setting to I think the supporting cast. I think the setting plays a big role in it. But Local Man is on my list. Conan the Barbarian. I went back to Conan these past couple months because Robert De La Torre has been back to drawing it, and it's just a fun comic.
Yeah, they
Conan
do
the Barbarian is like, look, you're getting into sorcery. There's going to be swords. There might be some naked chicks in here.
Yeah.
Conan's going to be fighting monsters.
Well, here's a cool one, the Barbaric. I don't know if you've heard of that genre, the Vault Studios Barbaric, but if you like Conan, it's a bloodthirsty talking axe. And
Yes.
that universe continues to grow, and all of those stories. Queen of Swords, they did a one shot this year. So if you're a Conan fan, that Barbaric is 100% a genre I recommend to you.
All right, well said. All right, I got Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime.
Yep.
We already said had
was
no reason
great.
being that good. We've talked about Doom. I think that's probably going to be my favorite single issue of the year. And then I've also got Birds of Prey from DC.
Has been amazing. Well, I mean, it's the writer.
Exactly.
You know what I
Kelly
mean?
Thompson.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a reason why she's nominated for all the
Yep.
Eisners. Speaking about Local Man, Tony Fleeks has got Uncanny Valley through Boom.
Yeah, and we
which
got a
is-
new one coming out this
That's
week,
right,
and it
yeah.
has a great little feel to it.
I think it's also just a really interesting concept and a great use of like the art form of comics, right? Where you've got this story taking place in the real world, but also like the cartoon world.
Yeah, well, part of it is that you don't even realize that the people that are writing these stories live through the same pop culture that you did. So when they write these stories that tie into these kind of like where they get these ideas from the pop culture that we've lived through, you identify with it. And so for that aspect, you're like, oh, yes, I
Yeah.
remember this is.
I get the
I
references.
remember. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I know where this is coming from.
He's
Yep.
my old guy. He's
Yeah.
my type of old guy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then
I'll tell you two DC
Yeah.
titles on the side. The Nightwing run by Tom Taylor. Everyone should read. It's fantastic.
I have literally been waiting on that to end.
Yeah,
And
well,
it
they're
feels like
doing the
every
Fall
time
of
I-
Grayson right
Okay,
now.
okay.
So as soon as they're done with the Fall of Grayson, that he'll be done, and he's actually moving over to
All in, right?
Detective Comics.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
doing All In, but he's also writing
That's right.
Detective
The main
Comics, and then Dan Waters, who's writing the Destro, is going to take over the Nightwing.
Okay.
So that's awesome. And then here's a small one: Green Lantern War Journal has been awesome. 11 of 12 parts we've gotten so far, but if you like any Green Lantern at all, the John Stewart Green Lantern War Journal 12-part series has been 100% a sleeper that nobody ever talks about.
Who's the creative team on that?
Oh man, you got me, stumped me off the
All
off
right.
the top, man. You got me with the wild card. It's sitting right over there. I stared at the comic right now.
Oh, which one?
Yeah,
Is it?
grab one right there. Second one down. No, right there. War Journal.
Oh.
Yeah, number 10. There it is.
That's probably Philip K. Johnson, maybe. And Montos.
Yep, Johnson and Montos. But yeah, that Green Lantern War Journal, you're looking for a great series. That's an amazing Green Lantern run.
All
Because
right.
Green Lantern's been much better too. I'll tell you what. Do you remember when they did Green Lantern with Grant Morrison? I got all excited because Green Lantern
Yeah,
sucked
Liam
for like
Sharp.
10 years. Yeah, and then I read it and I was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. How did they get this
Grant
great
Morrison
people
being
and
Grant
this story
Morrison
is
again.
terrible? There,
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. So the fact that both Green Lantern stories are going
Mm.
on, we just got a new ring. Sorrow in the newest Green Lantern, number 13, and then the Green Lantern War Journal. Definitely, man, they're doing Green Lantern right.
Damn right. That's good to hear. Ben, I've got one more question. Yeah, I might even have two more for you. But
Sure.
if you had to give a comic book recommendation to three different types of people, one being a complete newbie who has never walked into a shop, they want to jump into a complete story, something that might interest them. The second one being someone that is a Wednesday warrior that's looking for something new to read, which I kind of feel like you've kind of answered that one. You've been given recommendations left and right. So you could skip that one if you want. But give me a recommendation for a newbie and maybe someone that has been out of the game for a minute. It's been years since they stepped into a shop or collected comics, but they used to, and they're just looking for something to bring them back.
Okay, so all right, there's a new one for a younger crowd. If you are 25 years of age or younger and you're looking for a different title that you probably never thought DC or Marvel would produce. It's called Primer. And it is awesome. It's a young woman set, and she's got a different power set kind of that ties into art and artistry. So that one has been very popular for a new crowd to come in and check out. If you're a Wednesday warrior and you're looking for some new titles to kind of like go on, there's one that is part of the Spawn universe that I love, and that is the Spawn Scorched. It has been Stephen Scovey has been doing a lot of the cover art, but that is the one. It's kind of a group. It's kind of like the Justice League of the Spawn universe, but that one is a side story that not many people talk about. And the new Rat City, which is I call Spawn 2099.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and then the covers are so awesome. The character's really cool, and it is, like I said, a Spawn 2099 character. And then another thing that's happening that's huge for our Wednesday Warrior that a lot of people are sleeping on is the 2099 event in the Marvel Comics, Annihilation 2099. That's why Marvel's been doing 2099 from the beginning, is to lead up to this Annihilation 2099. They just did the first part where it was a new Nova, and it ended up being Logan Wolverine.
Oh, wow.
And then they did a second part. You've got a new Star-Lord. The third part comes out this week. It's a brand new Silver Surfer who makes a deal with Mephisto. And so it's really cool in that aspect. But that's definitely a smaller title that I think people are going to want to get into. And then what were we talking about? Maybe someone who's never been in a comic shop before?
No, I think you went above and beyond already, but the third one was someone that hasn't been in a shop in a while.
In a long time.
They used to collect, fell off it, wants to get back into, collecting comics and just needs like a good jumping on point. Something familiar, but also like maybe new.
Okay, so the new Elseworlds DC, Gotham by Gaslight, Kryptonian Age, amazing. Fantastic. And then I go to DC Elseworld stories all the time. Deceased is probably one of my favorite stories of all time. It's definitely my favorite story since I've owned this place, and so I always tell people to pick that book up there. And then I'd say with Marvel titles, they're so across the board, and everybody likes their own character that I generally tell people just pick one up, but there's nothing that specifically stands out but besides the Ultimate Universe, because if you haven't been in a comic store in 15 years and you don't know any of the characters and you want to just get started, that's the place to go, because you don't have to know anything about them ahead of time.
That was fantastic, and I'm gonna give you a round of applause for so just knocking out that homework assignment. You are sweating now because
we didn't turn the AC on in this place.
But also because you are spitballing recommendations left and right. And I feel like if I asked you for another 10 recommendations completely different from
I could probably do it. I could probably do it. I could do it.
But I think you've given myself and the listeners enough homework and great recommendations to check out. Hopefully people, there's plenty of great jumping on points is the long story short of it. Ben, last question. We've talked about DC All In. We've talked about San Diego Comic-Con coming up and what might come out of that. We talked a little bit about, I've shared what I'm most, the Mark Waid and Chris Samney, Batman Robin that's coming out. It's got me excited. Is there anything coming out that you know of later this year, or maybe something that you hope happens this year that, I guess I should rephrase that. That's a hell of a question. Wait. What are you looking forward to for the rest of the year? Is there a particular, whether that be a title, something going on with a publisher, movie-wise? I don't know. Like, what are you looking forward to?
Yes. Okay. All right. So they call it self-esteem for a reason, right? So, you got to give yourself self-esteem. I love the name Ben, okay? One of my favorite things in all of comics or any Ben characters. Ben Reilly, the clone of Spider-Man. As soon as I found out there was a clone of Spider-Man and they named him Ben, I was like, oh my God, a Spider-Man named Ben. This is my favorite thing ever. So it's coming out this year. Ben Reilly, if you don't know, Marvel acts like they don't really like him that much, but they've turned him into Chasm, a semi-villain of the Marvel world, but they brought Kane back. They did a one-shot Web of Spider-Man earlier this year. You can pick it up here. It's got about 7 different stories in it, but they're leading into Chasm versus Kane, the other failed clone of Amazing Spider-Man, and just the cover alone, Chasm in his new glowing outfit, Kane in his black and red, that is like my favorite thing ever. The clone conspiracy from the 90s was like my favorite thing to collect in Marvel Comics. I know people hate the clone stuff, but I loved it when Peter Parker didn't know if he was the real Spidey or not, and that whole run and how real it was with the Jackal. And so Chasm, Kane, they're doing a mini-series coming up, and that is 100% what I'm looking forward to this year.
Sign me up, Bing. I'll put that on the pull list.
We'll do it, man. Well, then G.I. Joe 2. Once they finally finish the 4 or 5 part series they're doing, and they're doing the ongoing G.I. Joe, because you don't know what they're going to do. They already showed you in that Energon universe that Baroness is going to be a part of the good guys at the beginning. So, for that aspect, I'm really looking forward to seeing where G.I. Joe goes.
I want to say there is among the panels planned for San Diego Comic-Con, I think there is an Energon universe one, and there's also Marvel's doing a panel with the editor-in-chief C.B. Cebulski and Kevin Feige, which I think will be an interesting, pairing between, the guy that runs the comics and the guy that runs everything else when it comes to Marvel. So I'll be curious to see what comes out of San Diego Comic-Con, and I will also be very excited to be here on Wednesday for TMNT #1 and this pizza party.
The pizza party, yeah, man. It's awesome. And the first one's all about Raphael, and it's pretty bloody and brutal. Again, it's not a kid's story. They're going to adult storyline. I know you read it early. It's going to be an awesome week, man.
All right, Ben, do you got anything planned for the local listeners? The folks that live here in Jax that whether they shop at Gotham or aren't customers just yet. You got anything big planned here?
Well, we got the pizza party this week, obviously. We're doing the newest exclusive full foil Steven Sokovia Berserker comic coming out. We're doing the 5-part series for Destro. We've gotten 2 parts. We're going to do all 5 issues, and they will all connect in artwork by Tyler Kirkham. Batman Days coming up in September, so we're going to throw a huge party there. Halloween Comic Fest right behind that in October. And then, I can't believe it. It's Christmas is right around the corner. So super easy to follow us on social media under Gotham City Limit, or go to GothamCityLimit.com. We have an event now page that shows you all the events coming out and the stuff we're doing up here. But there is no present time like today to take it to the limit. And that's what I recommend everybody who's listening to this podcast does.
Damn right, Ben. That's what we try to do here at the Short Box. We try to take it to the limit every single
My
episode.
girlfriend gets very annoyed because she's like, "Are you ready to go to Publix?" I'm like, "We're about to take it to the limit, baby." She's like, "Can you just shut the fuck up, please?"
She's like, "You've been out of work for 2
hours.
Exactly.
You're still
Aren't
doing
you tired?
the limit.
Yeah, I got you.
100%.
Ben, this has been a lot of fun. I look forward to checking in with you again at the end of the year to see how all that wraps up. But so far, 2024 has been shaping up to be, not even shaping up. It's been a great year in comics so far. You said that at the beginning, and I think we just drove the home point. We just drove the point home for the last hour and some change.
There's no joke. We talked about, I told you before we started to say, how long do you want this thing to be? Because I can talk about comics all night, and it's you have no idea. These are one of my favorite things to do. I had no idea when I started sponsoring, or when we started sponsoring the Short Box podcast, that calling in and asking some questions was going to be so much fun for me and for the shop. But what it is it's the reason that I own a comic store. It's not just to sell comic books. It's really to have these kind of interactions, be able to talk to people. And this is my favorite thing to do. The 2023 end of the year show was so much fun for me, being able to go through it. But I'll tell you what, 2 hours before this, I'm so nervous. I'm like, Jonathan, tell me a fucking story. I can't even think of anything right now. So in that aspect, this is amazing. I thank you so much for coming here and letting us be a part of this, because that is why we're in the comic industry.
Damn right. The privilege and honor is all mine, Ben. We appreciate you. The Short Box Nation loves you. And with that being said, listeners, this was this is Badr from the Short Box. I just got done chatting with Ben about all the great things going on in comics in 2024 so far. Plenty of recommendations. Matter of fact, you probably have more recommendations than you know what to do with, but I suggest finding one that piques your interest, jumping in on there, and thank Ben later. And like I like to say, even if you don't live in Jax, you can still take it to the limit every single day by going to GothamCityLimit.com. I will have links to everything, to all of Ben's socials and Gotham's website in the show notes, so you can check that out. And let me know what you thought about this episode. If you want to hear Ben more often, if you got a question for Ben, I should have opened up the voicemail line. That's what I should have did. I think I'll do that.
Well, end of the year.
End of the year.
Sounds great.
Ben will be back for the end of the year.
You saw an opportunity and jumped on it,
on,
Badr,
Ben.
dude. That's how you take it to the limit.
I'm learning. With that being said, Shortbox Nation, you guys take care. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/theshortbox for extra episodes, bonus content, etc. I've been recording a lot with Drew lately. We're going to continue that. And if you're here in Jax, come out to the pizza party. So that being said, you guys take care. Be well. Go read a good comic book because there's plenty of them out there. And I'll catch you around next time. All right. Peace.